Happy post Valentine's Day. So we are February 15th, 2022. Marketing Made Easy. Another show, another wild show upcoming, I promise you, because this one is all about what makes your customer buy. We're going to be talking all about that. I'm going to have some fun with my good friend, Scott Vogel, who's in the house, because we're talking about the chain of beliefs. And I know that you've heard me talk about this before, Scott, and I don't know how far you've gone into the chain of beliefs. We talked all about this today at Atlas, and it's always a big crowd pleaser. So I figured I would maybe use you as a case study and help you through your chain of beliefs if you don't have them, and also help everybody else. So, welcome to the show. We got to unmute you because I think if you're talking, I think
Yeah,
yeah,
you
there we go.
muted me, and now I have to actually click the mouse and do something, which
I'm
goes
just trying to protect that first feedback flow because when you're listening on the other things, right? So
that first flow that comes out of my mouth, you don't really want. Kind of like when you're watching a talk show and like a Robin Williams is on, and it's like bleep bleep. They can't keep up with it. There's just
yeah,
no way. It's not possible.
definitely.
Like a sarcasm meter. There's no way I can keep track of all the sarcasm that's about to happen on this show. I think I told you I was with my son this afternoon. We made chicken curry and we had a good time. And we left the house and came back here. And I got in the car and I was like, Scotty, I don't have my phone. And he's like, so what do you need it for? I was like, I guess I don't. Okay. I think like the statistics, whoever, 85, 90% of the population, if they couldn't find their phone, would like experience anxiety and stress and blah, blah.
Yeah,
I don't care.
yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
Anyway, so we're talking about chain of beliefs this evening, aren't we?
Yeah, and are you familiar with the chain of beliefs?
Well, we've talked about it before, but I think that it would behoove us all. I don't get to use that word often. Behoove us all. If
I
you
got to write that down because I got to look it up.
if you would refresh us on the chain of beliefs, since you spent time in Atlas today, really diving deep into it. And I know that you dive deep into everything, and chain of beliefs is really important. So why don't you give us an overview, Joey, if you would, of chain of beliefs?
Thank you, Scott.
Sounds like we're on a talk show, Joey.
Thank you, Scott. All right.
All right, okay, Joey.
Oh my God, we're already on this trip.
Already on it. It's not even a minute, 3 minutes in. Boom.
uh, Simply, the chain of beliefs is kind of what it basically is what people need to believe in order to buy from you.
Mhm.
And the simplicity of it is you're basically hitting objections that are in someone's mind before they come up. And when they come to your sales page or they speak to you or whatever that looks like in terms of the communication, is you understanding what they need to believe because they're in a state of belief for whatever that is, belief about themselves or a belief about the product that you're doing or the industry and all of the above combined. And your job is to help them believe a new thing because the only way we make a decision, right, is to believe something brand new, right? And this is very powerful when you understand the concept, when you understand and zoom out and say, all right, what do I need them to believe to move to the next stage to get to the path to get to the point of saying I'm in. So if you want, I'll give you an example from Atlas because I've been talking about this of what somebody would need to believe, and that will maybe bring some uh some, I guess, insights on maybe for yourself or anybody listening. So with Atlas, when I'm talking to somebody, they need to first believe that they are not the only one struggling with marketing. That's the very first thing. Because a lot of people they say like, "What's wrong with me?" or "I'm not getting marketing," or "I'm not a marketer, I'm not good enough." So they need to believe that. As soon as they believe that, then the next thing that they need to believe is that the ideal avatar, we talk about this all the time, right? The ideal client avatar is not the same as a dream client. And if if they don't believe that, they're not going to move towards buying Atlas or anything else that I talk about. So the conversation ends there. So then if they believe that, if even if they don't, necessarily say, yes, I totally believe it, but they're open to believing it. So there's that nuance there as well. Then they can move along the path and I can continue to talk to them. Okay. So then after that, once they believe that there is a difference or they're open to seeing there's a difference between an ideal client avatar and a dream client, then the next thing they need to believe is that they don't need to do funnels or paid ads or pushy marketing or anything like that. So they're like, oh, okay, I don't need to do that either. And so I have to get them over that belief. Right. And then after that, they need to believe I don't have to change who I am. I don't
Mhm.
have to become somebody. I don't have to put on a mask and be somebody I'm not to do this marketing stuff. Follow with me
Yep.
so far? Are you agreeing so far with that chain of beliefs? Like, because you
I'm
know a lot about Atlas and what I do,
Yeah,
right?
no, totally agreeing with everything we're talking about here, Joey, and just want to cement that the first belief has to be themselves. Forget about us and our product and what it can do. The first thing that they have to believe in is A, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
And B, do I think that maybe I can do that? This comes in because you might say, look, this is really easy. I'm going to show you step by step. They may not believe they can do it. And that's an important part of the chain of beliefs, too, is letting them. And I know that Jason Fladlien talks about it in One to Many a lot in there, that we have to get them to believe that they can do it. Because, like, yeah, that looks easy. And he showed me this and he showed me all the case studies, and I'm not alone. But then there's still that objection in their mind is, well, that's great, but can I do it? So continue on. Yeah, I totally agree with that's the chain of beliefs in Atlas is, they have to believe, wait, I don't have to do this funnel crap anymore, and I don't have to do this sleazy marketing stuff anymore, which is in their minds. So this is for Atlas, for you, the new chain of beliefs that they have to go. You mean I don't have to do this stuff that I've been reading about, and learning and following, and spent all this time, effort, and energy in, and that in itself is a little bit of a challenge
Yeah,
because
and then if they get once they get to that point, and I then give them, and plus you don't have to be a marketer, and you can just be yourself. They're like, "Holy crap, that's like a whole new perspective," and they either believe that or open to believe that, or they say, "No, you're full of crap," because all of these other people say I got to do this, and they're off the chain of
right,
beliefs, and
yeah,
there's nothing I can do to convince them otherwise. Does that make sense? And that's
totally,
where most people are hammering people over the head and trying to convince them like, no, you've got to buy my program because it'll help you sell your stuff. Meanwhile, they don't believe what they need to believe
right,
to get into the program, because the program is going to talk about all this stuff and they're going to go, wait a second, this is crap. And that's why people get into these programs and they want their refunds and all this other stuff. So the chain of beliefs is so powerful to be in the front of the sales piece or the transaction to get from customer or prospect to customer. So the next thing in my case is that it is actually easier to focus on that dream client. So they say like, okay, I can be myself, and that will attract dream clients if I become myself. That's another part of that
right.
belief. And if I do that, it's a whole lot easier for me to work with dream clients than it is all these big funnels and millions of people coming in to get my 3% conversion thing, right?
Yeah,
And
and I,
then go ahead.
Joey, yeah, I just want to jump in here, staying with Atlas and that. I believe that one of the challenges that you have is with the chain of beliefs is, and we saw it in the last couple of days in a couple of posts in the club, where they're following the template that's been laid out. Where
Right.
you got to do this, you got to do this, and then you got to get them to the thing, into the funnel, into the sale,
Right.
and instead of, and even one was mentioned was don't have any testimonials. Well, okay, when you first start out, you're not going to have any testimonials. You're the testimonials. You are. Oh, if I believe, like when you and I first met, and I watched you do what you do, I believed in your process, which is why I started with Right Marketing Copy and bought it, because you had something a little bit different. I've studied copywriting and marketing, and we don't have to mention all of the names of all the greats, but you had something different. And there was a thing of, you know what? This whole thing is a little bit different. The Glenn Livingston, Terry Dean research, Amazon that, but you went a little bit further. And so for me, I got to say, you know what? I believe this guy knows what he's talking about, based on everything in the past. And that's the beauty of Atlas and Elite, and everything that you do is they can look at it because the objections are there, and you figured it out, that they can come in and say, okay, do I believe this guy? Do I believe this right? Do I believe I can be myself, and just go in and not have to hammer them and build a funnel and run Facebook ads, cold traffic to a thing and a lead magnet and auto honor sequence and a deadline funnel and the cart's closing and blah. And of course, we can't forget the right color buttons is
Right.
important. And then when it comes to, and we kid about it, but say, you know what? It doesn't matter what the button looks like, and it doesn't matter what this looks like. And they're like, but don't my things have to move, and don't I have to have these amazing images? No, you got to have some great copy that talks to their beliefs, takes their objections, and overcomes them so that they can move forward. Go on.
Right, and that's it. You just said it right there. Is like you're actually anticipating or know what the objections are before they give you money, and you're talking about all of that. And so those are, the last. I guess I'll just finish it up just to close the loop. The
Yeah.
next belief that they need after they believe all the stuff I just said is that they can build a six-figure business without doing all of the stuff, without having a big social media following, without having a massive 100 million people list. They need to believe that, and then I show them how they can do that, and like, oh my god, that's so simple. And they, once they believe that, then it's like, okay, well, the next piece is easy, which is, well, I can do this with a group program, because that's what I'm teaching them, is that's part of it. Like, I can do this with a group program, and Joey's Atlas is the only thing that is the best to teach me this, and he's the best at it in the world. And once they believe that, they're like, here's my money. So that's really how the chain of beliefs kind of goes.
So here's a question for you based on that, because I think that it's probably one of the challenges that you address with Elite is, how about the chain of belief that I'm going to get rich overnight? I'm going to get this thing going. I'm going to run this and that. And all of a sudden, money's going to come flowing in, and then I'm going to scale it. And that's not the reality. You and I know that. How do you deal with that in the chain of beliefs for those coming in?
I talk about that as well in the chain of beliefs. So it'll say, like, you have to have patience. It's it's a process that it's one of the, it's kind of like the way I use it in my chain of beliefs is the Cialdini. I forget what it's called officially, but it's where I think it's called damaging admission, something to that effect.
Yeah, it is.
Where you're saying, like, the worst, this is what's bad about it, but here's the bonus of doing this. And so that's what I tell them. I say, this is the worst thing about Atlas. You can't see it happening and all these other things. And it's a patient thingy. But because they believe all these other things, and they're letting go of 96% of the crap and no pressure, they can be themselves. Like, all those things add up to it. It outweighs the bad part about it. Like, you can't see it happening, or they don't convert like right away, that kind of thing. So I need them to believe that, or at least be open to that, because it won't do me any good just to make a sale or a conversion, to have somebody come in and think, well, what's this? I want my money back, is because this is not what I was promised, or what I believed that this program was about.
And I want to emphasize how vitally important it is to map this out, the chain of beliefs, so that when they do come in, there's no, wait a second, all this hype and that, now I got the thing and it doesn't do, and I'm frustrated, I'm upset, and I want my money back. And now how do I get my money back? That's why people don't buy to begin with, is because they've been taken advantage of in the past. They bought something that hasn't delivered on the promises, and then they got to go through the rigmarole. There's another one I haven't used in a while. That's my son's word.
I love rigmarole.
I love rigmarole. They have to go through all of that in order to get their money back. And next time, that's part of the chain of beliefs there. Is this going to be another thing that's not going to deliver on its promise?
Well, yeah, and a lot of it has to do with over-promising too, Scott. That's how a lot of people get people to buy. Over-promise, slam in bonuses that don't mean anything to the product, and just promise, and they haven't gone through the chain of beliefs because they're afraid of people going to a point and not believing and saying, this is not for me, and they exit the cart. What happened? People went to my cart, they didn't buy. Let me get a cart, an email sequence that gets them back to buy. Well, they didn't believe it.
And by the way, Perry Belcher talks about it as a shameful admission. He talks about when you're telling your story, you make a shameful admission. And I'll make a shameful admission right now. When I was on the platform in the early years, and I was speaking and doing seminars and workshops and creating products and selling them, I was probably not the most honest person from a standpoint of overpromised what this thing was going to do. You buy my business builder toolkit and it's going to make you money, and you're going to get more brides, and you're going to get more clients. And I made it like you just had to have it the kit sitting here next to you and like, hold on to it and just like, oh, money is flowing.
Yeah.
And that the material was excellent. I'm not saying the product was phenomenal, and if you followed it at that, but I did overhype
I
it,
hear you.
but
Well,
it was
thank you for saying that. Thank you for being honest and vulnerable, and that's what it's all about, right?
we have to be, Joey. We're at a point now. We are in heart-centered marketing, and you are heart-centered, Joey. And what we do now is, share from our heart. I was on with somebody who needed some help with something, and it's like, how much do you charge for your services? And they're like, I have no clue. And I don't know until let's talk. Let me see what you've got and see if I can even help you. I may
Yeah.
not be the one to help you. I may have to send you to, Joey, to Atlas, to Elite, to Right Marketing Copy, to this, to VIP coaching, to the group, or somewhere else or something else, because I don't know. Interesting chain of beliefs. There's a guy that I fell into. We talked about this in planning for the future, and either last show or the show before, which was great. What do we do for the future? And by the way, the post office had all kinds of hidden goodies for me. They wouldn't believe
Oh,
it.
yes, that is amazing.
They kept saying that they tried to
Yes.
deliver it. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm here. I went to the post office the other day, and I get to the post office, and they're like, oh, it's here somewhere. But you got a great carrier. Today, like my electrolyte tablets hadn't arrived. I had 2 different ones ordered. They said they tried to deliver it. And I went down, and it was like, oh, the mailbox wasn't cleared. What do you mean? The snowstorm. The snowstorm was 10 days ago. I shoveled it myself the day of the snowstorm so you could get to all the mailboxes, because I wanted everyone to get their mail. And I was like, you know what? It's not important. I got my books and this, and I'm still missing one, but I have no idea what that has to do with our.
Well, let me hit some of these comments. I want to talk about your chain of beliefs for your
Okay.
brand new product, video memory maker. So think about that for a second as we go through these these comments in here. The chain of comments.
The chain of comments.
Do you
Every
have
domain's available? No.
do you have to change your chain of, do you have to change your chain of beliefs when you niche down further, or the chain of beliefs? Yes, you have to, for sure,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's different. Now it's a different market. They have to believe something different.
The further you go down into the niche and the more defined it is, the more clear and defined that your chain of beliefs have to be. Because when we get down so deep into the niche and you're dealing with such specifics in a person, and their beliefs are totally different than the top of the niche.
Mhm.
As we go down and drill down deeper,
It could be a lot of the same things there, but there are nuances to it. There are specifics there.
agreed.
Yeah,
Same
yeah,
thing, but the nuances.
right. I
Thanks,
love that.
Dave.
I love that word. Scott, I'm so glad that you didn't forget the buttons. Okay. And Lorna, when you start mapping the chain of beliefs, let me see here. When you start mapping the chain of beliefs, do you start at the last belief before the purchase and work backwards to start? Okay. So that's a great question, Lorna. And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Because so many people talk about starting with the end in mind, Stephen Covey and all these things. When you're doing these linear paths of some kind, I have trouble with it. I personally have trouble starting at the end and working backwards. I always start at the beginning, and then I kind of bounce around. That's just the way my brain works. So there is no real one answer, but I think the overall answer is you start with the end in mind. What would you say, Scott? Like, how do you do it?
I start with the end in mind. I want to know what the end thing is before they have to make the purchase, and what's the belief at that moment. And to me, the belief at the end is, do they believe that by taking out their credit card and making the purchase that it's going to deliver on what the promise was? That's where I like to start, because to me, that's the important piece. Is everything up to there is great. We have to dispel a lot of myths, and we have to overcome a lot of beliefs. When it comes down to it, when they get to push that button, again, the all-important color of the button, the radius, everything, the shadow, the movement, you're not smiling.
Stop. Just stop.
Okay, sorry. No, I'm not. Ding, sarcasm meter. When it gets to that, that's where it's most important to address that chain of belief is, will I risk status? Because that's, at the end of the day, the biggest thing we have to understand is when somebody, if somebody buys something for $10, there's no risk in status. You come home and say, honey, I spent $10 for a piece of junk. She's like, big deal. But if I go home and say I spent 100, 500, whatever it is, and it turns out to be a piece of junk, not only do I lose status with my friends, family, and loved ones, but colleagues. It'd be like, it's like I said, hey, Joey, I just spent $2,000 on this course and it turned out to be a piece of junk. And you're like, why didn't you ask me first?
Right.
Oh, bro, I already knew about that thing. It was a total waste of money. And then I feel like, oh, there's a risk in status. I'm an idiot. I made a mistake. I spent that kind of money, even if I could get it back. So to me, to answer Lorna again, I believe that you start there, but then again, there's times where I'll start at the beginning and say, what's the first thing they need to believe? Yeah. It's kind of like copy. It's like, which email do I write first? I don't know.
Yeah, that's how I start. I always basically start with where are they now? Because I'm so in tune with that piece of my market, where they are, that it's so much easier for me to start with that piece. And then I know what the end piece is going to be. Like, this is the program for me. Joey's the best at it. I trust Joey. Boom, I'm in, type of thing, whatever.
And right here, what Petra said, yes, Scott, one of the important links in the chain somewhere at the end has to be, I believe this guy, gal, dude, dudette company is the right one because he, she, they live what they preach.
Exactly.
And that's like what makes you so you.
Exactly.
I believe this guy. He's doing exactly. It's not like, I want you to do this, 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 and this, but I'm doing something else. It's kind of like, I talk about yoga all the time. I talk about the abs challenges I'm playing with. I talk about all the things I'm doing and how we help people. And it's not talk because we're doing it. You talk about how you go into, and she's right. That is really an important is, do I believe?
For sure. Those are the easy boxes from the end in mind.
Yep.
Even in the group today, I saw someone post about Atlas or the process of it, or something that somebody asked her, like, why did you buy Joey's over this other person's? And that's part of it, because the chain of beliefs brought her into my system, my world and my universe, and everything that I talk and stand out in the world and do and talk about, that it's not just lip service. It's like, okay, I believe him. And that was, I would assume, I don't know because she's not here on the call, but that would be one of the reasons why she purchased Atlas. So, oops, let me go back here. Great question. Thank you. You'll delve down deeper. And so Lorna is, if the last belief is that they believe I'm the one with the solution for them, does that belief have to include something specific about the solution? Well, I always start out with, personally, I say that I like Atlas is the program to teach me these things, that all the beliefs kind of rolled into one. I believe so the program, in this case, Lorna, that we're talking about, the program, yes, that Atlas is the program to teach me this stuff, all the stuff that I believe, and that Joey or Lorna is the best to teach me this. And that's where I wrap all that belief of you and the program into that box.
My answer is yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It has to include something specific, because once they believe I'm the one, or Lorna is the one to fix my funnel, that's the specificity there. Okay, I got this, all that. Lorna's definitely the one that can fix my funnel. And that's the specificity right there about the solution. She's the one who can fix the funnel because I've seen what she's done. Like when you and I go, whether it's map architecting a funnel or copy or whatever it is, it's like, well, I was on the call with someone the other day and they hadn't really yet proven that their copy converted. They were a good copywriter. They could write copy, but when it came to the end of it, their copy didn't convert. They couldn't say, here's this one, this one, this one, this one. Take a look at this. This converted this way. Take a look at this. This converted this way. When all is said and done and they believe that my copy or your copy or our stuff will do the job, convert, that's the thought at the end. Okay, yeah, I believe what this guy's saying. I believe that it will do what I need it and provide me the solution. Therefore, click the button. And as Lorna said, I'm glad you didn't forget the buttons.
And I want to bring up another point here, Scott, which is not chain of beliefs, the levels of awareness. Because at this point of the journey, if they're at that point, they're in the product aware stage.
Yeah.
and they are moving to the most aware, which is the buy, which
Right.
is now, Lorna, they are comparing products in their mind. Well, Scott's got the program here and Joey's got this program over there. Which one do I believe to get me to this thing? So definitely the product has to be mentioned in my mind at that point.
Well, when I do my elitist program, it's going to be Mr. X does the elitist program. It's going to be the exact same thing you do. And they're going to go, well, why should I get it from Scott? Or why should I get it from Joey? Scott is much more expensive than we should probably go with him.
And he's got the elitist, which is the plural of elite. Right?
Exactly. His must be higher than the elite. His the elitist.
If they
I'll read
believe,
this one. If
okay, go
they
ahead.
believe you are the one or your program is the one, is there still room for them to balk at price? Yes, it seems that if they really believe price is a non-issue. So if they are balking at price, does that mean they haven't met all the beliefs in the chain?
Yes,
Yes, they don't feel that the value is there.
right.
I get that a lot, Kay, is when I talk to somebody, I don't sell at all. And I was kidding in the group with closing. I do not close, Joey. It's like, look, this is what you need. This is what I can do. And this is what it's going to cost. And when they get to it, unfortunately, because I don't spend a lot of time, that's just not where I'm at. Overcoming all that, the price, it's basically, if you want this, this is what it's going to cost you. Well, I can get somebody to do it for 3,000. You're going to do it for 15,000. I said, well, okay, then go for it. I'm not going to sit there. That's just me, how I do it.
Yeah, and that's why this is so powerful to
Yeah,
understand this in our marketing, because we've talked about this many times, Scott, in different ways of,
yeah,
explaining that the value that you got to put out into the marketplace, and they have
yep,
to buy into the value and all this compared to what the prices of the course and the program. Well, that's what chain of beliefs is. If you haven't articulated the value and the differences of what you do, then of course the default decision to buy is by price,
yeah.
right? And you don't want that. You don't want to. That's what people do,
No,
is if they default down to like, okay, nothing you've set up here changes my mind about anything. You're just the same as Scott's
right.
program. Then who's is cheaper? Like
Yeah.
that's it. Like that's not a good place to be.
Well, Joey, for example, I was saying earlier, just a little bit ago, when either I lost the thought or I allowed you to interrupt me, one of the two, or probably both. There's this
Mm.
wonderful, when I was doing the active campaign thing and we were talking about investing in the future, and I spent like a half a day going and binge watching active campaign videos by a guy, and I liked him.
Yeah.
And I got into his funnel, of course, his email sequence, and he does a great job. And he's got a program, active campaign. And his immediate thing was get it 20% off by this date. There wasn't even a conversation, but it started out as, I'm already going to give you 20% off to make a decision by then. And thanks, Kay. Have a nice night. Kay has to leave.
Yeah.
And I sent him an email and I said, hey, I've learned a tremendous amount from you. Right now, I don't have the time or that. When I have time, I really would love to invest in your program. It was between a $400 program and 20% off, 320. At the end of the day, there wasn't enough in the chain of beliefs that I should get it now. And yeah, the levels of awareness are so important in this. And Lorna
Yeah.
said, I didn't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've heard you compare the chain of beliefs to levels of awareness. That opens up some brain cells. Good. It's about time Joey did something to open up
Finally.
brain cell.
Let's
Finally.
talk about you, man. Let's talk about your chain of beliefs. Like, what do people need to believe in order to buy Video Memory Maker?
Well, first of all, they need to believe that they can do it, that it's as easy as I say it is. That's the first belief, is it's got to be easy. They have to believe that making videos like this is really going to connect them emotionally to friends, family, and colleagues. That it's not just going to be posting, that making videos instead of just posting images is going to be more effective, more emotionally, more heartfelt. And it's going to enable them to create these relationships with people based on the memories that they've created, that rather than, so they have to believe that a couple of things. One, that a video is going to be more effective than just sharing pictures.
Cool. Yeah.
And second, they have to believe that it's going to be fairly easy to do, that they don't have to, there's no learning curve, and they don't have to figure out all kinds of complicated stuff. And and everything else. Those pretty much are the two chains of belief. Now, when it comes down to the value proposition at that point, when they're getting ready to click the buy button or click, I want it, then there's a belief there is, do I want to spend this money? That's why I've got, I'm playing with that, and I always play with that.
So there's only two things that they need to believe before they click the buy button?
No, that's just, those are the first two that I came up with.
So let's unpack it.
Okay, I haven't thought much about it.
That's why I want to do this with you
Right.
live, so people can see this unpack and help you and help anybody else with this. What do you think that they need to believe? Let's do a live brainstorm session. Are you open to that?
I'm open to it. Yeah.
So what do you think they need to believe once they get past the I can do this? That was like what? No, it was like is it videos? Sharing videos is more heartfelt and will make a bigger impact than photos alone. That's belief number one, right?
Yeah.
And then the next one is I can do this with this software.
Right. And another belief is this one is easier / better than the other stuff that I may have. I've got something on my phone.
Lorna's got something before which is important for you to go before the video thing. So that's a belief, and she's right.
No, she's absolutely right. And thank you, Lorna. She is absolutely right. They've got to believe that keeping memories is important. That not just throw it, because in the old days, you threw Polaroid pictures in a shoebox, and then you looked at them years later and they were yellow and this, and you're like, what do I do with all this stuff?
So that opens up another path for you, right? Or not another path, but other avenues of between memories are important and that video is better. There's something in between there that I think is missing. What do you think it is? Because if they believe memories are important, and I'll give you a clue, that they're like, well, I've already got pictures. And so if you jump straight to, well, video's better and more impactful, you're missing a belief.
Well, that's why we're here.
What do you think it is? Okay, I'll give you another clue because I want you to come up with it. Wow. Okay, I'll give you another clue. So when I'm talking about moving from getting the online business more successful, and I say, well, you need to know the difference between dream clients and ideal client avatars. And I know you've done this before, but it's not enough. That's a clue where I'm going with it for you. What's in between? Memories are important, and the video thing that I'm going to show you do is more impactful. Why do they need to do a video piece of it? Because the photos
are static. They don't show action, motion, grab attention.
They're vulnerable. Physical photos are vulnerable because that's your market, isn't it? Older people.
I don't know who my market is yet, Joey.
Okay, well that's important because if it's older people who are used to printing out, more seniors who are like printing out photos, they're more vulnerable to the weathering and all this other kind of stuff. So they need to believe that. They need to believe, and you can't get to the photos. You can't find them or whatever that is. There's some kind of belief there that makes it. And you're right. And photos going through them one by one is like there's no impact there. Like, yeah, you may look at them and cry for one or two of them, but imagine if it was now put to music and all this other stuff. So you're building the chain of beliefs, and you're also building emotion because as well as I do that 98% right is emotional driven. And so now you're building that emotion, saying, "Oh yeah, you're right. You know what?" Because they might just believe that. Well, I don't need to do video because I've got all these digital photos,
right?
And they're like, "I don't need that." So if you're saying, "Well, that's great," but there's no emotion attached to those things because you have to sit there and swipe up, swipe up, swipe up. But now you've got this other thing, and now they're like, "Holy crap, you're right." Like the reason I'm preserving the memory is because I want the emotion. I want to be transported back into that memory. So there's that belief there to say this is why digital photos or regular photographs are not good enough. And that doesn't have to be like a whole big long, video about it. It's like it could be just a simple statement, and they're gonna be like, yeah, you know what, you're right. I never thought about that, right? And just as long as you frame it, and they're like, you're right, and then they move to the next piece.
Well, you're right. I never thought about that.
The next one is you can visit memories when they're stuck.
Yeah.
You can't visit memories when they're stuck in a box or messes up in a digital file. Got that? You just play with these. You just put them all over and say, well, what do people need to believe? Because it's not as simple as, well, they need to do video and my software is easy to use, because that's what everybody says. And you want to be in the middle of it and talk about all the emotions between them that they need to totally believe about. Because it's a given, Scott, right? That the software's got to be easy to use.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's a given. So to me, it's like, well, yeah, that's just at the end. Like, okay, and the software is easy to use, but how do I get them there? How do I, get them to the point of, well, one of them is I can do it. I can actually do it, whatever. Does the software add in voiceover so they can add in someone's voice? Anything coming to mind, Scott?
No, I'm just listening, agreeing.
Is this helping?
Yeah, it's helping tremendously because, yeah. Thank you, Lorna. Thank you, Joey. Yeah, it's helping tremendously. You're absolutely right. And, jumping back to, because, and again, I'm not going to sit here and say everybody's my audience, because everybody is not my audience. And I don't ever believe that anyone can have everyone as an audience.
Right.
Basically, I'm in the discovery phase of who actually is, because there's so many different, as I told you earlier, I've been on with people who have bought the software, people who are playing with it, people who are doing things, and trying to figure out who. And there's so many different ones. This one is like, oh, this, and I won't go down that road today. Maybe we'll look at that next week. And Petra said, I don't want my photos to fade away. My photos will live on for my grandchildren.
Yeah. And that was, so Lorna's got this question here. That was my question. One of the things that people really miss is the sound of someone's voice. If that can be added, it would mean so much for people. They would need video. They would need video of that person.
Well, I mean,
because that's not what Video Memory Maker is. It's taking photos and making them into a video.
Yeah.
So you would need a video of that's a completely different thing.
Well, that's where Fast Track Creator comes in, or Fast Video Creator comes in. Who I don't know what this will evolve into, because I told you, this went from idea to alpha in 41 days. And it's just fast. Right now, we're adding music, and we're adding title slides, so you can put all your captions and stuff. And yes, you can add a soundtrack, Lorna. You basically, that should be done by tomorrow, where you can add, right now, a music track. And really, it's an MP4, an MP4A, it's an MP3, an M4A, or a WAV file. So there's no reason why it couldn't be somebody talking.
Now, I want to bring up another point to this, which is why the chain of beliefs is so important, is that I get questions a lot about, like, what am I going to talk about? Like, I'm going to go on social media, do reels, do this and that. Like, what am I going to talk about? Right. And that the chain of beliefs is what you talk about.
Right.
It's because you know what the customer needs to believe in order to buy Atlas or buy Video Memory Maker, or whatever it is for you. So if you really get it and you study this, and it's not like a concrete document, it's living, breathing. It's always kind of moving, and you're always adding to it or maybe tweaking it a little bit. But you talked about, webinar, Jason, and all this. To me, like, if I was going to go do a webinar and I was like, what am I going to talk about? I would take my chain of beliefs and say, this is section 1, this is section 2, section 3, because that's what they need to believe in order to get to the end of the webinar to buy it. It doesn't make any other sense to talk about anything else except for the chain of beliefs.
Yeah.
So there's so many applications for why you need it.
Yeah.
And I'll let you, if you want to interject there, I'll let you go ahead and talk about that first, because there's another piece I want to talk about.
I want to just answer Loiner's question because it also allows you to bring videos in. So you could have somebody talking on video and bring that in as well.
Yeah.
Just wanted to answer that question. Go on, continue. You were on a roll.
Shoot. Oh, okay. It also, by knowing the chain of beliefs, and you're having a conversation, whether that's chat or live or whatever, and you know what the next thing that you need to talk about is. In other words, if someone starts talking from the middle of your chain of beliefs, like that's where they are, you know what the next thing should be to talk about. And most people totally mess this up. They're like, oh, I get you. I totally understand you. But go buy Atlas and it'll fix your problem. Meanwhile, there's like 3 boxes of beliefs that they're totally like, what are you talking about? Right. So the chain of beliefs allows you to have the intelligent conversation. Again, we talked about join the conversation that's going on in someone's mind. That's what it is. This is in the chain, in their belief. This is the thing that's going on in their mind. And I know that they need to go and believe this next thing. So I'm going to talk about this other thing to move them along. Any thoughts on that?
I totally agree with it. That yes, it's all of the beliefs need to be addressed. You skip. You can't just jump and say, well, blah, blah, blah. Like you said, I can't just say, okay, you're ready to buy when I haven't unpacked and addressed the rest of the beliefs to make sure that you're good before I jump right into it. So I'm totally agree with you.
Yep. I'm not too old to get along with computers. That's another good one. These are all great objections because that's what the chain of beliefs is. It's really about objections. People are having these objections and you're hitting them before they actually think about them or talk about them, and you're hitting them. And video clips are awesome, but that's for the other program though, isn't it, Scott? Like video clips?
No, you can bring video clips into Video Memory Maker also. We
Okay, cool.
Because you bring it in, you trim it, you're done. So you got a 3-minute video and you only want 12 seconds. You just go, and there's the 12 seconds of the money shot, if you want to call it that.
Right.
Yeah.
And see, this is why when you start doing this, why your market is so important. Because to me, and I could be wrong, but
that's okay.
Someone who they don't care about trimming of the video.
Yeah.
And they're like, they just want to put video in and make it look kind of cool and all that. That's not something that they need to believe.
No.
Whereas another person who is like, I want to do a 30-second reel, I need it to be 15 seconds. That's a different market where they need to believe that this thing can do it within, 2 clicks or something like that. Yep. So it's a different chain of beliefs, a different market, different altogether. Do you agree?
Oh, yeah. Oh, totally. Because again, I've got my, certain percentage of Bob Michaels and Barb Michaels who are using this because one guy likes to use it for his granddaughter's business. Another guy is using it to make someone else is doing their cat video, somebody else's horses, somebody else's dog, somebody else's, another one wants to help churches who have their summer camps and then they take pictures and make them into videos. Another guy is like got this huge festival and people like take pictures and then they like kind of have a competition to see who's got the better pictures. And it's like, I still haven't, me, I'm doing this one backwards. And I admit I'm doing it backwards. Shameful admission, but we'll see what happens. Mm-hmm. I like Netta's question here.
This is a really great question. How do you know their objections before they've expressed them?
So my answer to that is an objection journal. I hope everyone has an objection journal. I've always had objection journals, and it goes into the research. It goes back to right marketing copy. When you go start looking at comparable things, people, groups, blogs, Amazon, wherever you're doing your research, LinkedIn, every social media platform where your target audience, your avatar, your dream client is hanging out, they're going to put their objections in.
Yep.
Book reviews are the greatest thing because they're going to tell you what was missing from the book. That's their objection.
Yep.
They're going to go into groups and they're going to talk about it. And it's just, you have to list all your objections so that when you're doing this, your chain of beliefs overcomes these objections.
Yeah, that's right on. The research is so important. You're right, Scott. And I'll add to that where, yeah, yeah, the only thing I'll add there is that the reason you do betas for me is where I'm getting more of the objections, which is
Yeah,
making my product better. So if I look back at the Atlas, it was just an assumption meta, where it was like, here's what I think people are objecting to or what they want. Now I did ask them. I sent out to my list and said, "Hey, what's the problem? What's going on?" And they would tell me. But since that time, which was almost a year ago now, I think it's like now it's totally completely different, and
yeah,
it's bang on. It's really great and what the objections are. So it's a living process, Netta. So you're not going to get it right away. But like what Scott said is, and you know your market well enough anyway. But if you don't know, if you're brand new, then do exactly what Scott said. Go
right.
out and go into forums, go into groups, because people love talking about their problems and objections. They will, it's blatantly everywhere. That's what
Well,
you
Joey,
find.
I'll give you an example of, objections. As you know, we launched an alpha and we told people this is an alpha version. It's going to have issues and bugs.
Right.
That's why I'm giving you this price. There's the justification on the price. And that's why I got on the phone with people once they bought it. They're in there posting things. That's why I do alphas and you do betas. I mean, alpha in software that'll go to beta, but that gives me an opportunity to find out the objections and what the problems are. I had a guy, I think I told you a few weeks ago, he bought it like the first day and then he refunded it. And I spoke to my business partner. He was like, tell him to go, blah, 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 and kick him
Yeah.
out and get rid of him. And I'm like, no. I said, let's get on a call. Tell me what's going on. And because I know the guy, he's been in my group, he's been part of our community, he's part of the family. And I was like, here's your money back. I already gave him the money back before I even got on the call. I said, tell me what's up. And he told me it had nothing to do with the product or that. He got a little, he's 74 years old. He got a little bit curmudgeon-y, and there's a good word, curmudgeon-y. And just,
Can you spell that?
yeah, sure. Crumodgeny. Or depending if you want to pluralize it. So,
Oh my God. Schools would love your stuff, by the way, what you're talking about, Lorna
thank you.
says.
Yeah,
And I think you might have an objection. I had people
yeah,
figure they can do something in iMovie or Windows Media Player and do it for free, uh, half part of it. Yeah,
yeah,
and that's a big objection. Like, you're right, Lorna. And also with even Apple, they already have an automatic um, thing
yeah.
where if the photos automatically put themselves together. Even Facebook does it for you, automatically puts memories in. So I have something in my brain that would what to talk to that objection. What would you say to that?
Well, uh, as you said, they do it automatically. You don't get to choose. You don't get
Right.
to decide.
Exactly.
And when somebody else is deciding what your memories are, that's really not what a memory is about. And yeah, they do
Bang
it
on.
automatically. That we've looked into, and uh,
We're on the same wavelength, man.
right.
That's why you're here. You see?
That's why I'm here. I get lucky from time to time.
The objections are different depending on the avatar in my tiny experience. Yes, that's why it's a dream client. That's why there's niche markets. You can't. That's why we say over and over and over again. You can't speak to everybody, and no matter how much your product helps everybody, you can't speak to everybody at once because they all have different beliefs and they're all coming in from different parts, and they need to believe a certain thing, and that's why that's a big plus for dream client, dream client, dream client. I started doing slideshows for people after I did my own slideshow for my husband's 50th, and one Ken Burns effect zoomed in on his crotch on the photo.
So, Lorna, thank you. As I read that, I wrote, "Don't leave your Zoom to automation," and zoom in right there. That's perfect for a marketing piece for a little video.
The automatic things killed my slideshow business. There
Yeah,
you go. That's a really good objection belief thingy. Well, all those other I don't know how to do these Zoom thingies and all that, and this thing automatically does it. Really? So would you want to zoom in on your husband's crotch, like
Right.
so, and you have no control over that, and you put it up to your this thing, and you're embarrassed. You know what I mean? That's brilliant, Lorna. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, Lorna.
Lorna's on fire.
Lorna's on fire tonight. Jeez. You need to get
So
on the phone with Lorna. Oh,
we're talking today about the chain of beliefs, which is what people need to believe from you in order to buy from you, and it goes deeper. Like if if you're gonna, if you really want to know how to write copy or create a video or anything, even talk about doing a webinar or anything like that, this is what it comes down to, because these are objections that people have to get over, or a belief that they need to get over in order to buy. And I really encourage you to think about it. And it took me years and years to even take my own advice, because I learned this, like, I don't know, 10 years ago, never really did it. And once I did it, I would attribute, right marketing copy and Atlas and all those things that are really successful for me now to the chain of beliefs, because I actually sat down and did it and thought, what do people need to believe? And even in right marketing copy, right? One of the biggest things, Scott, is I don't need to become a copywriter.
right.
Like, that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to become a copywriter. Well, you don't have to. Well, I don't like writing. You don't have to like writing either. You're kidding me. So I don't have to like writing, and I don't have to learn to be a copywriter. And you're telling me I can still write copy? Yes. You know what I mean? They have to believe that,
Right.
and then go through the process, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting, Joey, because one of the programs that I did 4 or 5 years ago was called 12 Copy Test, and we've talked about it. And one of them is the why test. That's in my sales funnel, in my lead magnet, I give them that one. I said, this is the single most important test that you need to apply to every piece of copy you write. I don't care what you write, if it's an email, if it's a landing page, if it's a sales page, if it's a web page, if it's a blog. The why test is the single most important test you have to apply to any copy. And you have to look and ask why. Why should the reader believe that? Because the reader's going to say, why should I believe what you just said?
Right.
That's a big part of the chain of beliefs, is when you put something out there, people are going to say, well, why should I believe you? Why is that true? And that's where the chain of belief comes in, to overcome that objection.
Yeah, it's part. I think it's both. I think it's a combination of that. It's like, here's the thing you need to believe. Then they're saying why, and then you explain why. This is the reason why.
Right.
Because if I say to you, well, that's great, because everybody says the same thing to me, is I've done avatar work,
Yep.
I've done it all, I've already got my thing, and I go, well, not really. And they're
Right.
like, why? Well, because there's a difference between a dream client. Oh, I know my dream client. You probably don't.
Right.
Why? Here's why. And I tell them the difference, and like, oh, that's a new perspective. I go, yeah. And now they believe something. Now I've opened up their brain. They go,
Right.
oh, wait a minute. Maybe there's something I'm missing about this whole thing. So you're right. They're always saying, well, why? Are you just trying to sell me something?
Yeah.
You're just reframing it. No, I'm not reframing it. There's a difference here.
If you look at everything you put out there and say, why? Why should I believe you?
Right.
That's important.
But first, we got to know what those beliefs are.
Right.
So one of Scott's beliefs would be they don't have to be a filmmaker. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to be a pro. You don't have to know anything.
That's part of the chain of beliefs. Do you talk about that?
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you, Lorna.
Great stuff, because everything comes from beliefs, especially if you see because before. Don't know what that last piece.
Great stuff, because everything comes from beliefs, especially if you see because before. Need a little clarification on that one, Collie, please.
Mm-hmm. I'm hoping this is helping you, because the chain of beliefs is you're dealing with the objections up front, and great questions already. That, what if you don't know the objections? Well, it's your best guess at the start of it, and go do some research on it, because there's a whole bunch of places to get research. You want to run them down again, Scott?
Definitely, I would go first to Amazon. That's my go-to starting point. I go to Amazon, I look for books, I look for anything related to what I'm doing, and I go look at the reviews, good and bad. I especially want to read the bad ones, because I want to see what they're complaining about. Verified buyers of a book, a product, and I want to know what they're saying about it. I look at Google reviews also, because people are going to tell what's going on. Depending on the market you're in, there's other things like TripAdvisor and there's Yelp and those things, if that's what you're doing. Then you start going into LinkedIn and you start to go to the social media platforms. You find blogs and you find websites and you find communities where people are talking about this stuff. Yeah, you go onto Facebook and you research your keywords. You go onto YouTube and you look at the comments people are making based on the video. You're going to find out everything you need to go. That alone, you just use those 5, 6, 7 different places to do your research. You're going to find everything you need to know in a matter of a day. It's not like weeks and months. You're going to find it fast. You put it in a spreadsheet and you prioritize and you look at it and say, well, wait a second. I found out that this and that. And that's where you look at your differentiators as well. It's like if you read that 27 people have said this is missing or they didn't figure that out, well, you better include that and figure that one out.
Yeah. And one tip there too is on the Amazon thing is it's harder to find, but the 3-star, like the middle ones, are like the gold because I always take a grain of salt on the 5 and the 1s because like I hate this guy or I don't like this person, whatever, and you can find it. But when you find the 3s, you'll basically find this is what I loved about the book and this is what I think is missing or they missed out on or whatever. Those are to me the gold. That's where you find the real like, oh my God, that's kind of what missing. And then, like you said, if there's like a couple of those 3s that are referencing the same thing, then it's like bang on. Like you've just hit pay dirt.
Yeah.
And okay. And so also this is, so the chain of beliefs is about the reasons why people need to move along the path in order to buy from you. Like what if you don't know what those what they need to believe in order to buy from you, you can't craft anything. It doesn't matter because all you're going to do is try to convince somebody of something that you don't know where they need to go next. And that is the challenge that you and I see it all the time in copy. People are just filling in templates and throwing things in that have no path whatsoever to bring the reader in the slippery slope down from sentence 1 to sentence 2 to paragraph. It doesn't make any sense.
The headline is to read the subway line. The purpose of the subway line is to read the first paragraph. The first is you got to start with this. You got to, the call out. And then after the call out is the this. And then you have to do the this, the grabber. And then after the grabber is the promise. And then those things are still important. If you then take the chain of beliefs and weave them in whatever formula, now all of a sudden, when you get to the connection story and you're telling your story, like in the group yesterday, there needs to be a connection story of here's what I'm talking about. Here's the story. Here's the proof of why you should believe me, because I've been there. I've done that. I put the flags down so you could follow me. And not that I just put the flags down, but let me show you where each of the flags is and what happened each step of the way. Like I said earlier, I made a shameful admission. I used to be on the platform and I would sell my business builder toolkit, which was a $500 thing. And I sell it for $397 off the stage. And in a day, I'd sell a lot of them because I would do the keynote and then I'd do a couple of breakouts. And at the end of the day, again, I never did anybody a disservice, but I overpromised what the thing would do. Because it was like I was talking to someone today. If I said, you know what, this is going to be really hard for you. It's like, I'm playing with an abs challenge right now. And I read what Netta was talking about with the whole flour sugar thing. And I gave all that up 8 months ago. And then now I'm at a point where I could not be at a point in my chain of beliefs to believe that I could have 6-pack abs 8 months ago. It wouldn't matter. You couldn't have convinced me. Now I'm at a point after 49 days of doing it that, now I believe. Now the thing is to find somebody because I'm watching things and I don't believe.
But that wasn't the promise of the abs, was it?
No.
Well, what was the promise?
Of what?
Of doing the abs challenge.
That was just for me to sculpt, strengthen, and define my abs, to have a stronger core that will help in every other aspect of my life. But that was me. That's my belief right now. Now, if somebody came out there, because I've been watching stuff, and they'll say, like, the most important thing about getting 6-pack abs is diet. And then they'll go talk about everything but that. I'm like, I'm done with you. And then they'll go watch another video. Well, that doesn't make sense. I'm not going into a gym, and I'm not going to throw kettlebells and medicine balls around. I don't believe you. So it's filtering through to find out what resonates with you, which goes back to dream client, target audience, and finding out what this is about, that particular niche. And when we're talking about the fitness niche, that's one of the four biggies. That's a tough one.
Yeah, but so I mean, this is an important discussion, and to really unpack what you're
we're
saying
having an
here.
important discussion.
I want everybody to listen to this, because what you just said is important, because your belief of when you started the abs challenge, they didn't sell you 6-pack abs,
Right.
because way back then, with your flabby stomach
Yeah.
and your weak core,
Yeah.
you would think, there's no way I'm going to get 6-pack abs. I'm out. But if for whatever they did to believe, you said, look, you don't have to have 6-pack abs to be more healthy and have a strong core and everything else. All you have to do is this. And you believe that.
Yep.
Right? Am I right so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So then they got you to this place and you're like, wow, like I feel actually pretty good. I got a little bit of definition here. And now somebody comes in and says, you know what? You can have 6-pack abs because once you have a strong core and blah, 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 now you're more open to believe it.
Yep.
So in other words, what I'm trying to say is, if they had like an upsell, let's say like in your world, which is like, hey, look at this, now I can say this, right? So that's
my world.
So Brett, if they had another program, you would be more open to it now.
Yeah. Well, I'm doing this with one of my yoga teachers. So we built this, we developed it, we created it, but it was based on, look, I already got a full day. I'm already doing 2 yoga classes a day. If you told me I got to do 1,000 sit-ups, I ain't going to do it. If you told me I got to do abs exercises for 45 minutes, I'm not going to do it. We created something that is 10 minutes. That's it, 10 minutes. And that was a big piece. Therefore, I'm just throwing out objections. I'm throwing out a chain of beliefs well, you can do it in 10 minutes a day in a couple of months. It'll happen.
Well, yeah, if all I have to do it is 10 minutes, I'm going to give this a shot. Now you've done 10 minutes. It's kind of like running a marathon. Like I can't run a marathon. Right. Well, can you run around the block?
Right.
Well, maybe I can run half a block. Okay, try half a block. And then you get better and better and better.
Yeah. When I was training to run years back, same thing. It didn't start with, oh crap, I'm going to run a marathon. Did a biathlon. Oh crap. Well, I started riding and I started running a little bit until eventually I could run the distance. Took me a while.
Right.
Anyway, we're talking about chain of beliefs this evening. Joey Ragona on Heart-Centered Marketing Made Easy, episode number something.
107.
Holy moly, 107.
There is the group. You can join us in that group because we are there every day helping you. If you are heart-centered, we'd love to have you there. Amazing group of people. Most of them show up here live. Thank you for being here live. #live. Well, we're over now, but maybe #replay. If you're watching the replay, that'd be awesome. And we're here every single Tuesday talking about all kinds of things, marketing and business and mindset and all the fun stuff. And we even get sarcastic.
Talk about chain of beliefs, Joey.
Talk about chain of beliefs.
We're here every Tuesday. That's a belief.
That is a belief.
Count on.
I'm going to put this one more time into the chat, just so you can click on that link, so you can go there. You don't have to type it in there, but I just want to show it up on screen. But
thank you everybody for joining us this evening. Thank you, Lorna. Thank you, Netta. Thank you, Petra. Thank you, everyone, for your contributions this evening.
Great having you.
Thank you, Kay, even though you had to leave. And thank you, everybody else that's watching and quiet.
And Collie. Did we get Collie?
Yeah, thank you, Collie. And thank you for those that are watching the replay. #replay, #live, #heart-centered Joey, #Joey rocks, #Joey anything, #Joey.
Scott is sarcastic.
Exactly. Ding, 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 ding.
Thank you, my friend. We'll see you next.